You don't have to grind yourself down to bone to be successful. And then I started talking to people like you, and I'm like, how do I position my business in a way to where I can have more time with my family, And they said, well, have you ever heard of hiring people? I'm like,
have you heard of this word leverage?
I can pivot my business. I can go to the gym, shower, go on a couple of appointments, and be home by 6.
Welcome back to the No Regrets Blueprint podcast. So what happens when the business starts growing, the opportunities start multiplying, and the very life you've been working so hard to build begins pulling you away from the people you love most? Today's guest, Nick Trotter, has lived that story. From touring musician to entrepreneur, cocktail company founder, brokerage owner, and just serial entrepreneur and builder, Nick has spent his life chasing some big dreams. But one of the biggest lessons he learned had nothing to do with business. It came when he realized that success was costing him time with the people he was working so hard to provide for. In this conversation today, we get to dive into authenticity, burnout, leadership, entrepreneurship, family, and the wake-up call that forced Nick to redefine what exactly success means to him. If you've ever felt torn between ambition and presence, or wondered whether you can build something great without sacrificing what matters most, this episode, it's for you. So let's get into it. All right, fam, welcome back to the pod. Today, I have the privilege and the opportunity to hang out with my buddy, Nick. Nick Trotter is, by his own words, a husband, father, and broker owner of First Class Real Estate Summit. He's an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur with probably one of the coolest backgrounds that I know. He founded Trotter's Tonics, a cocktail syrup company. And then also, and this is, I think I knew you for several years before I really even knew this was like your like secret alter ego in the evenings, weekends, and then even like for a summer. He's a founding member of the melodic hard rock band Machines, spelled CHNZ. I don't know if I said that right. Did I say it right?
You did.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pronounced Machines.
Well, one of the things you'll find out on this pod today is that Nick is about the energy, he's about the authenticity, and he's about a people-first mindset with his leadership. When not working, he enjoys time with his family at the beach, playing music, and exploring his extensive bourbon collection. Look, Nick, we can go back far and we can tell everybody to share your story, and yet what was one of the biggest turning points when you're building all of these businesses that caused you to realize, like, I got to keep the main thing, and how did it affect how you were building your businesses? Let's jump into there, and then we'll have some fun talking about some of the other stuff too.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Matt. We've been friends for a long time and greatly appreciate being on the pod. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude.
Love the invite. Love what you're doing here too. Well, I guess the first thing that I noticed was whenever you have that income stream that you're providing for your family or yourself, and you want to start something else, right? You want to bring something else into the mix, maybe a separate income stream or something that you're passionate about or a hobby. That income stream that you're depending on is going to drop. So there was a turning point in my life when I realized that, yes, I wanted to do the cocktail syrup company. Yes, I've been in touring bands my whole life, but where is my main source of income coming from? And for me, that was real estate. So I wanted to always make sure that I carry my axes every day on my shoulder, but the main one that I'm swinging daily is the real estate axe, and chopping it at that tree multiple hours a day. And then we can supplement in the fun things and the hobbies and the passions. So there was a really big turning point when I was getting out of bands and I wanted to figure out my next move. And that next move, I got my real estate license and met you. So once I saw success in real estate, I wanted to start bringing in these other passion projects. Well, the passion projects weren't paying the bills, so I couldn't give it my all. So that was a really big turning point when my income from the real estate kind of dropped because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I really found out that through that, what I really wanted to do was do real estate how I wanted to do it, you know? So that was a big turning point for me, was when I found that if you give too much time away from your main income stream, then that income's going to drop. And, you know, when you start in something else, it's not quite there to support what you need. So that was my turning point.
No, right on. You open up your own brokerage, and
Correct.
one of the mottos that you have is work hard, be yourself, have fun doing it. Right? Why was it so important for you to really lean in on that culture where agents don't have to put on a stiff corporate persona or a suit or show up in like the traditional cookie cutter kind of way?
Yeah, I mean, I have tattoos, you know, I'm not the ordinary type cookie cutter guy. And that's not my personality, right? It's not my personality to show up in a suit, show up in a nice suit and tie. And I really do enjoy being clean cut, nice, clean, well mannered, professional, but with some flair, you know. Like I said, I have my tattoos, and I love eccentric people. I love big personalities. I love people who bring that energy and that fire and that passion for what they love. And I found through music and touring around the country that those people really stood out in my world. So I wanted a place for those. I don't know. You ever seen Rudolph, the old claymation one where they have the island of misfit toys?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So Island of Misfit Toys, all of those toys are amazing, and they have their own personalities and their own eccentricities. And everybody just kind of shoved them off on their own island because they weren't the norm, you know? So we decided to dive into that eccentricities and the big personalities because they're out there, you know? If somebody doesn't want to work with you because you have tattoos, but you're the best at what you do, then they're the ones missing out, not me.
Yeah, that's a really strong mindset shift, right? And as far as like unique backgrounds and energy, et cetera, like you've got probably one of the most unique backgrounds. So how do you use, your, because you're a highly creative guy, right? So how do you
Exactly.
use that creative outlet and that perspective to feed into your business and then your leadership?
Ooh, great question, Matt. Well, I had to figure it out. You know, how do I bring my background from music and all those other things that I did into real estate? Well, marketing is one, right? I love creating videos, marketing videos, walkthrough videos, flying the drone around because I'm a huge nerd, huge tech nerd. So when I found out that I could get the gimbals and the drone and take what I was doing on the road with my bands, I was creating like little webisodes while we were gone. And I wasn't in a lot of them because I was behind the camera, you know? So I just took that over to real estate and used my tech prowess and my creative side to create walkthrough videos, marketing, showing my personality. So that's really how I did that.
Awesome, man. Now,
Yeah.
when we were having a conversation or talking about getting onto the podcast, you shared that one of the biggest turning points that you had was realizing that no one was coming to save me. This happened right after you got married and had a family depending on you. Take us back. Let's talk about that moment.
Ooh.
What was the catalyst that made that reality hit so hard?
Yeah. So I got into real estate on a team, and the team really wasn't showing me what I needed to do to be successful. They were putting me in place so they could go be successful in other areas of their lives because they didn't
Mhm.
want to do the open houses and the not so fun side, right? So
Sure.
they weren't showing me the ways that I needed to succeed for myself and my family. So I was running out of money. We had just gotten pregnant, we had just gotten married, we got pregnant with my now 11-year-old Sparrow. And I was sitting there on New Year's Eve with my wife, and she's on the couch. And I remember drinking some champagne, and I was checking my email for some reason, and I got a Real Estate Express email where you could sign up for real estate school, and it was half off for the new year. So I
Uh,
just looked over at my wife and said, "Hey, I just signed up for real estate school." And she was like, "Why?" You know, I said, "I don't know. I just had this feeling that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And it sounds like kind of like the rock star job of the of the work industry, and I just figured it would fit my persona really well. And yeah, so I back then, totally different mindset. I was working in property management. I was like scooping, we would have holes in our parking lots. I'm scooping cold patch asphalt into these holes. I'm climbing up on roofs, servicing HVAC units for Target and Best Buy and these giant strip malls in, 105-degree weather in July and August in the middle of Kansas City. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I don't want
Yeah.
to do this anymore. So I met up with an old buddy and he was like, have you ever thought about real estate? I'm like, not really. I mean, I work for a property management company. I see the people out there leasing office spaces making some good money. He's like, well, you could trade your shovel and your HVAC equipment for a cell phone and a computer. And that
That
was
sounds
really,
awesome.
yeah, that sounds great. No more work was really what I was going after. And then I had that thought in my mind of my wife sitting at home with this baby in her belly, like, how am I going to provide for them? And I was making good money doing property management, but once I got into real estate and that made that mind shift from growing somebody else's business into that I could do it for myself. And
Yeah.
that was really the turning point. There was when he said, hey, you can trade your shovel and your tool bag for a cell phone and a laptop. And for some reason that just resonated with me, Matt.
Right on. No, I think there's a lot of agents in this business that have similar stories of like, man, there's got to be something better. And then someone's like, real estate, it's so easy. You should just jump in. And then you get into real estate and you're like, they lied.
Well, what I hear a lot is, well, you can set your own schedule.
Yeah. You may as well guarantee that you're gone in 8 months, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You set your own schedule. You may as well have set your exit from real estate. You're about to get a job.
yeah, I mean, you can set your own schedule, but if you don't set your schedule, you don't have a schedule, and then you're out.
Yeah, bro.
You
Listen,
know.
that's a whole separate podcast. We can get into all that, right? I want to get into like the come up, right? Like the come up story, and then kind of the challenges along the way, because I think this happens to so many people, especially when you're starting a new business, and and I was just talking about this on a earlier podcast. It's like it's really cool and easy to say, hey, work-life balance integration when things are cool, but like when you're bleeding everywhere and you're doing everything you can to kind of keep it all together to get back to the surface, right? To just tread water. It's you don't always have the luxury of like having like banker's hours, etc. So, you know,
Yeah.
when you had the realization that no one was coming to save you and you had to like take care of everything for your family's sake, it's really easy to swing so hard in the other direction and just become complete workaholic, head down, grind hard, etc. How did you ensure that you were building something for your family without sacrificing your presence with your family?
Well, there was one point where the presence with my family was non-existent because I was grinding so hard. I mean, I grew up, I'm not going to say super poor, but we weren't wealthy by any means at all.
Mhm.
Single mom, dad wasn't around. I grew up in a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in Lee Summit suburb outside of Kansas City. And I just felt like I was destined for more. I felt like I was put here for a greater purpose. And we all are. We just don't know what that purpose is. And I was always creating things from nothing, writing music, writing songs. But as soon as I got into a career where I felt like I belonged in real estate, I dug so hard into it to ensure that my family was taken care of. And like we were talking about before we started here, I generated so much business that I was completely taken away from my home. I'm,
Yeah.
I was generating leads all morning, and then I would go to the gym. I would literally go home and shower and go on like 2 or 3 listing appointments. And I did that for 3 or 4 years straight. And then when I had more signs in the ground in people's yards, then I noticed the buyers started coming in. So then I was doing the lead generation, going to the gym, going home, showering, putting on my suit and tie because I thought that's who I wanted to be, in this industry. And then I would go on a couple listing appointments, and then I would literally show buyers with flashlights until 9 o'clock at night for people that would let us come by and look at the houses. So then I would get home at 10:30 and have to get up 5:30, 6 o'clock, kids off at daycare, school. So there was really a point when there was no balance. And thankfully, my wife is an incredible supporter and woman that she was like, hey, remember me? Like, I love you, but this real estate 24/7 stuff is not cohesive to my schedule. The girls, they miss you. I miss you. How are we going to balance this? How are
Yeah.
we going to
So would you,
balance this?
yeah. So would you say that that was a wake up call?
Very much a wake up call because I didn't want to lose my family. I was working so hard for them. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't say this, but as men and providers, we are asked and pulled in so many different directions every day
Yeah.
that the last thing we want to come home and do is be asked to do more things, like, and that was a huge wake up call for me because I was coming home. My wife was like, dude, you need to be home more. I'm asking you to be home more. And I'm like, I just can't take more people asking more things of me, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a huge turning point for me, Matt, was when she was like, knock, knock, dude, you need to stop a little bit, put on the brakes. Money's cool and everything, but that's not what we're here for.
What were some of the steps that you took then to kind of course correct after that?
Yeah, I took that into deep consideration when she brought that up. And then I started talking to people like you and my bold coach and my mastery coaches. And I'm like, how do I position my business in a way to where I can have more time with my family? And they said, well, have you ever heard of hiring people? I'm like,
Have you heard of this word leverage?
yeah. I'm like, yeah, no, at that time I hadn't heard of leverage. I had only hired people in my band career. But yeah, no, leverage was huge. And that helped me
Yeah.
immensely to when I realized, hey, I could bring on an executive assistant. I can bring on somebody to do my paperwork. I can bring on an agent to go show all these buyers. I can pivot my business to get only listings. I can go generate listings. I can go to the gym, shower, go on a couple of appointments and be home by 6. So once I started framing my mind in that's when things completely changed around my house, completely changed around my business. I got more excited. I wasn't so burnt out. Like it changed everything for me.
What's something that you can share with somebody that feels like they're actually burning out on both sides? Like they're generating business and they're not having fun anymore, and then they're also feeling like they're losing their people at home as well. Like what's the first thing that they should even consider?
To get out of their own way, dude. Like you don't have to grind yourself down to bone to be successful. Like there's other people out there that need you more than your clients do, right? Like, or that are more important to you. Leverage, just like you said, that magic word is a great thing I would tell to somebody, and to make sure you're spending the time with the people who want you there, because those are the people that matter. But yeah, hiring was a concept way beyond me because I didn't even think I could build a business, let alone hire people.
Oh
So
yeah.
that
Yeah. It's a total paradigm shift for so many people going, well, I just wanted to do this. I want to work hard. I wanted to sell real estate. Now, like you're telling me I got to like be HR and be a boss and like a leader. And that freaks people out.
it does.
It really freaks people out.
And I don't know about you, but when I was younger and I had W-2 jobs, nothing was not my job. I was not that employee.
Yeah.
When they'd say, hey, Nick, would you mind taking out the trash on your way out? I'd be like, yeah, sure, boss, no problem. I wasn't there to take the trash out. I wasn't the trash guy, but I didn't mind taking the trash out because I always wanted to go above and beyond for some reason. I don't know. It was just maybe the way I was raised or my worth.
You're wired different, right? Entrepreneurs and leaders are wired different. I mean, you're just that story right there reminds me of, Andy Frisella talks about when he was building First Form, and he goes and he still walks around the factory, et cetera. And he talks about like when he goes into the bathroom, if like someone's washing their hands and they don't like wipe the counter after themselves if there's like some water that between like getting your hands wet to putting it in the towel. Like he'll lose his shit. He'll like literally go find somebody and be like, who was just in there? And they're like, bro, take it easy. It's just water. He goes, no. He goes, how we do anything is how we do everything. He goes, do you not have any pride? Like, do you not have any ownership of who you are and where you are? Right. Like, and I remember listening to that story and then having like these memories of like, oh yeah, I never thought it was weird. Like I would, like you just said, like I would do the extra thing or like the other thing and realizing, it is weird because the employee mindset never thinks of that. The employee is like, how little can I do not to get fired? And the entrepreneur is like, how much more can I do so I can have an opportunity? Right. They're totally different mindsets.
It's wild you just brought that up because right before I hopped on here, I used the restroom and I noticed there was water spots on the faucet and I wiped them up.
And you wipe them
And
up.
you just brought that up and it blows my mind. My job was to be irreplaceable in the workforce. So if that meant taking the trash out for my boss who knows it's not my job to take the trash out, or just cleaning the faucet in there. So the next person that walks in, and we've got 2 interviews today. So the next person that walks in there doesn't go, ooh, that's not clean,
Yeah, man. Yeah. Look, your environment is a reflection of who you are. Like I fully believe that. Right.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit deeper into the leadership aspect here. And, you had mentioned that, when talking about how you felt with being on a team and how other agents oftentimes feel like when they're at certain brokerages or offices that they feel like just another number. You mentioned that you built First Class Real Estate Summit specifically to counter that perspective. How do you maintain true present leadership for your agents as your team continues to scale? How do you keep that to the forefront?
I think each agent that we have currently can attest to this, but I have a personal relationship with each of them. Like beyond, I don't like the word boss. I can't stand it. I am definitely a leader and I have like a good connection and relationship with each one of my agents. I call them all the time. They call me all the time. I send them, they have my Calendly links to where they can hop on my schedule at any time for a quick 30-minute one-on-one or whatever they need. We're just providing that. Let me answer it like this. When you go somewhere to a restaurant and you'll be like, man, if I was running a restaurant, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's my mindset of this company and this brokerage of I've been to other places and other brokerages and I'd be like, I wouldn't do that, if I was the big dog paying the bills. So whenever I set out to be the big dog to pay the bills, I made sure to carry those inclinations with me, Matt, to carry those responsibilities of having that. I've talked to so many agents. I've probably talked to 15 agents last week that said they never met their broker at their brokerage. And they've been with them for 5 to 10 years. They've never met their broker. So I wanted to make sure that when I am here, I'm fully present. My calendar is open and accessible. My phone is always on. I'm always reaching out to them. I see them out to eat, celebrating their anniversary or something. And I send them a handwritten note with a little gift card or something in there and said, I didn't even know it was you and your wife's anniversary, man. Here's a, happy anniversary. Like, because I never got that, so I want to make sure of all those little things that I said I wouldn't do, or that I would have been like, man, that would be nice to do. I make sure to do that. And,
right on.
My wife supports that too. She is such a good woman that, even though her brothers and things like won't send her birthday cards, she'll make sure to send them a birthday card with money in it to their kids, our little nieces and nephews, everybody in the family. And I really value that trait in her, and it makes me want to be a better person too. So we're always striving just to be better.
That's a really cool thing that you brought up. And I think it's also a mindset of people who are and value relationships. They understand that
She
that
makes
it
me
has
better.
that it's not that's not always reciprocal. And if she wants a relationship, she needs to be the one to initiate it, and she's okay with that. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I know there are people in my world that I value greatly that if I didn't reach out to them, we would never talk. But I
Yes.
care enough about the relationship to keep it going. And I could sit back and go, well, if they wanted to, they would, or let them.
Yeah.
And I love everything. I love a lot of things that Mel Robbins does, but like the let them theory doesn't necessarily come into play
Yes.
in that
I
capacity, depending on certain relationships.
and let me ask you, Matt. So is it tiring to you sometimes
Well, it's not if that it's so here's the thing. If I didn't
or
care about them,
exhausting?
if I didn't care about them, it would be draining energy. But because I value the relationship, that effort for me is rewarding. Right.
Ooh.
When it stops being rewarding is when I feel obligated to just to keep the peace. And I've got family members that I have to like if I don't check a certain box when it comes to a milestone, a time of year, or whatever, then like it gets weird. I don't like weird, and
Yeah.
I almost resist it, and yet it's easy for me to just check that box, but it's because it's obligatory. It is tedious, and I don't like it.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that. And sometimes like reaching out to friends and being the one to start those conversations. But at the end of the day, you only do it because you value those relationships and those friendships and that closeness with that person. I can honestly say sometimes it does get exhausting to reach out to people over and over and over again. But you just realize that that's just being a good person. It's part of it, if you
yeah,
want
and
that relationship. Yeah.
especially in our line of business when it comes to like our business is driven on relationships and like
Yeah.
realizing that people are busy, they got their own lives, and in order for us to be able to serve and support them, we've got to cut through that and sometimes put the onus of effort on our side of the thing to keep this thing rolling. Right. So I get that. Yeah. And it like there's times like the other day I was back to back to back. I think I had like 8 Zooms, 2 coaching calls, and like some editing work. It was like from 8:45 a.m. until like 6:15. And I came up, I was toast. And I told
Mhm.
my wife, I said, I'm completely peopled out. I apologize in advance. If you ask me something and I don't respond appropriately, I've got no more bandwidth for like pleasantries. Like I'm just gonna cut
Yes.
right to the thing. And so like
Yeah.
I think, it's that was just one of those moments where I was done.
I-
I
yeah,
was
but
done.
I love that communication that you and Christy have because
Yeah.
Tracy and I have the same thing. I come, I'll get off the phone or just exactly, I'll have a day exactly like you were talking about because we moved to Gulf Breeze, Florida, and the brokerage is still here in Lee Summit. So there's days when
In
I'm on
Missouri, for
back.
those that are listening from all over the country, you don't know where Lee Summit, Missouri, just outside of Kansas City. And
Yeah.
and so you moved to Florida. I want to get into that. I want you to kind of like back us up to that because like when you did that, I was like, wait, you're what? I remember you making a post like, all right, guys, we did it. We bought the house. We move in 2 weeks. I was like, are you kidding me, bro?
You just started a brokerage. Yeah.
You just
No.
launched a brokerage.
Yeah, I feel that. And what I was saying was that there's days when I have meetings just like that, Matt, back to back to back, and we take that personality meter and we turn it up to 110. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's exhausting, but when you have that communication, I can sit down on the couch and go, and Tracy and my wife will look over and she goes, "You gave everybody 110 today, didn't you?" And I was
Mm.
like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, guess what? I ain't gonna hold it against you. I found this movie on Netflix that I've been wanting to watch. You want me to go make some popcorn and grab some like zero Sprite, And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. I would love that. So that's why I continue to work hard is because we have that. And I don't want to lose that. And I feel like sometimes as men, we think that if we're not the biggest providers and everything, that we might lose that. And just to have that is amazing and keeps me waking up every day.
That's right on. It just that's cool that you guys have that relationship, right? I want to talk about energy, right? And I think where so many people struggle is because they have to wear a mask for so long throughout the day that it becomes exhausting before it needs to. And I think this goes back to like your discovery of how authenticity is your superpower.
Yeah.
Take us, I know you mentioned like early on, you put the suit on because you thought that that's what you were supposed to do. And right now you're everything anti-suit, right?
Yeah.
What was the turning point for you? When did you just say, F it, I am tats out? Like you, either you're with me or you're not. And if you're not all in, you're all out.
Well, I used to have piercings and stuff all over my ears and my face too, which is hilarious that those are gone. Over time, I just took them out. It's just part of growing up, I guess, right? But there was a point when I got a listing appointment set at an $850,000 listing in the sticks. It's like Kingsville, Missouri, in the middle of nowhere. And the Mr. Seller had been a banker at Blue Ridge Bank for like 40 years. I mean, he did so many deals. His wife, Karen, was a stay at home mom for their family. And I haven't had any kids at home for 30 years. This was their retirement home.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know them. I didn't know them at all. They were just complete strangers to me. And I went and I sat in their kitchen dressed with my tattoos out and stuff. And I just love you. I just, after a conversation with you, I can tell that this just means the world to you. We can see it in your eyes. We can hear it in your voice. Like, this is what you love to do. You love to help people, and we need help. So we don't care that you have the tattoos. At the time, I think I had a lip ring or something. And they're like, we don't care about that. We don't care about that. We want you to sell our house. And before I left, I said, I'm meeting with these elderly clients of mine or prospects of mine. And Tracy goes, oh, you're not going to go with your lip ring and your tattoos and stuff out, are you? And I said, no, I'm trying it. I'm just going to go be my authentic self and see how they react. And the way they reacted set the precedence for everything else.
I love that story, right? One of the conversations I have with, so many of my coaching clients is that when they complain about a client, and they're like, man, I keep getting the worst clients. And I was like, well, that's your fault. And they're like,
Yeah.
What? And I was like, it's your fault because you're showing up absolutely fake online. You're attracting people that are attracted to the fake version of you. And so that when they show up, they're just as disappointed as you are that you're not actually who you say you are. And so they're pissed off and now you're pissed off. So if you keep getting them, that's your fault because you're hiding yourself online. So be all out, full blast. And then the people that love you are going to love you and everybody else can go kick rocks.
That's exactly right, Matt. And yeah, I mean, it's very easy to do these days in this society. It's very easy to do. And I saw a like behind the scenes, I think it was like a documentary about a famous YouTube guy. Well, who he was on the camera was not who he was when the cameras were off. And the guy that was making the documentary, whenever the camera's on, the YouTuber's inviting him into the camera. Look who's here. He's filming a documentary about me because I'm so big, bad, and awesome. And then when the camera was off, he's like, get away from me. You're not invited to tonight's dinner. I have like 30 other YouTube coming over. I don't want you around. So I paid for a limo to go take you out on the town for the night. Like, what a jerk, Like, so it's very easy to fall into that trap of how many of these can you get on a post or, hey, I appeared fake once online and everybody liked that post more than my other. So that's going to be my new alter ego persona. It's super easy to do, but yeah, hopefully the strong will survive that trend. I promise you that.
Yeah. Has there ever been an experience when you've decided to just be your full authentic self where it maybe seemingly backfired, but you were okay with it? Or maybe it protected you from having to deal with the Karens and the Chads?
Yes. And for some reason, this one story just pops in my head. You know me, I'm always showing up, smile. I try to just be honest and open and funny always. We were playing what's called a showcase in the music industry where a lot of record labels and big talent comes out to watch your show. And we were playing the Whiskey A Go-Go in LA. And like all these Sony executives, Epic, Universal, all these bigwigs were going to be there. And at the time we had an investor for our band and he was a massive success. Oh, I'd never met his wife before. So when I show up, I'm all garbed out, ready to get on stage and stuff. And I go up to him and my band stand around him and they're like, "Hey, the investor's here. You should go say hi." And I'm like, "Hey, man, how's it going? Good to see you." And I don't think I've met the missus. And everybody and I was like, did I miss something? And they're like, that's, that's not his wife. Like that's his wife's back home. This is his mistress.
Oh no. Jeez.
And I'm walking up, "Hey guys, I don't believe I met your wife before." And my gosh, like insert foot, into the mouth. Yeah, so that was one time where my true, authentic personality really came to bite me in the butt. Because after that, my relationship with the investor was never the same after that.
Just, yeah, I could, yeah. Okay. No, I get that.
So, in real estate, no, it hasn't really ever come back to bite me in the butt or anything like that. But there's been times when I just trust everybody at 100% face value when I meet them to a
Mhm.
fault. And my wife tells me that all the time. You're just too trusting of people and you got to be a little bit more reserved. But that's not my personality. That's not my true, authentic self. My true, authentic self is being 110% honest, open, trustworthy with everybody. So sometimes when somebody enters my life and they may not have such good intentions like I do with them, then I tend to over trust and then I get taken advantage of a lot.
It's this the dichotomy of entrepreneurship, right? Like one of those traits that makes you amazing that can also be a blind spot is your eternal optimism, because that I can work my way out of anything. So we tend to ignore the flags waving like desperately in our faces to not do something. You're like, no, this sounds like a great idea, and I mean, like I could probably figure it out, right? Like, sure, let's do it. Let's open this up. Let's go. And
Yeah.
you're like, it's just money. It's not even real. I'll just make more. And
Yeah.
however, there's people in our world that don't necessarily love that.
Yeah, and you know what? I've seen a change in you even in the last decade of how you used to talk in front of crowds whenever I first met you versus how you talk in front of crowds now. Dude, I am so impressed at your growth too that I know you've
I
had
appreciate
some
it, man.
shifts and everything too.
I had to burn it all down. No,
Burn the boats.
yeah, no, one of the biggest like turning points in my life was literally 4 years ago, where I felt like the biggest fraud on the planet.
Yeah,
I mean, I talk about it. It's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, The Entrepreneur's Regret, is,
right.
I was living a lie. I was at rock top playing somebody else's role on somebody else's mountain. I hated it.
Yeah.
And when I had to relearn everything, and like one of my coaches just basically asked me like, what are your core values? And I didn't have a good answer other than like the pithy
Whoa.
top line answer. And she's like, well,
Yeah.
there's your problem. And so she gave me this series of exercises. And when I had to go down, it took me like 2 weeks to go through all of the work to kind of start mining these core values. And the first one that popped out was authenticity. And for me, what
See.
my highest core value is authenticity. And for me, that is who you see on this podcast or who you hear on this podcast, who you see on social media is who you meet in person. Right? Like who I am in
Dude,
public, it's who I
yes.
am in private, and vice versa. And the best compliment I can get is, man, I know this is the first time we ever met, but I've been watching your stuff forever. I feel like I already know you, and you're exactly that guy. Like
Yes.
that's it for me. Right.
Me
And I
too.
was just so
Me too.
tired of playing the vanilla role of the corporate leadership role and having to like it was so exhausting. So when I asked you the question earlier about like when you finally got to take the mask off and like
The
release
suit.
that
Yeah.
authentic energy, right? Like what was that point for you? Because I had that point, and I thank you so much for saying what you said, because it was going to cost me everything if I continued to not be myself.
I'm glad you had that realization, man, because you deserve it and your family deserves it. So that's
I appreciate
awesome.
it.
I love
Yeah,
that. And
dude.
that's exactly how I want to show up for my agents, my family, and my friends. That's
Mm.
exactly how I want to show up. I may swear a little bit more in person than I do online or anything like that, but what you see online is who I am in person, man. I guarantee you that. And we made a pact in our family that if it's not fun, business or family, then we're not posting it. I'm not going to be the FML. It's raining outside today. I'm having a terrible day. I dropped my Starbucks drink. I'm not that person, man. I'm going to be like, hey, it's raining out today. Did you know that rain back in, when the Indians were around was a cleansing spiritual thing for them? Like, maybe you should shift your mindset from thinking it's gloomy and cloudy as a washing away of things in your life that don't serve you anymore. That's what rain was used to be thought of, but not anymore. Now society means, oh, I can't walk my dog properly or whatever, having a terrible Tuesday because it's thunderstorming out.
Yeah. No. And that's huge. And it shows, right? Like it shows with how you show up and who you get to surround yourself with. I want to touch on legacy for a second. And when we talk about, when you look at all the things that you're building, the brokerage, the businesses, the music, what's the ultimate legacy that you want your kids to see when they look at how their dad lived his life?
Wow, that's a very, very powerful question there, man. And I've thought about this a lot lately as I get older. Some would say I'm still young, but I don't feel that way. I just told my wife the other day that when I'm gone, my kids can always put on my music and I'll be there. When I'm gone, my kids will have businesses and real estate that they can take ownership of if they want to. If not, they can sell it to get out of hard times. They can, do what they want with it. My legacy is empowering my kids to know that they can stand on their own 2 feet. They don't need anybody else. They can make it on their own. They can cook their own food at like gourmet levels. They can do and say whatever they want and be whoever they want. You just have to find the right people to connect with to be able to do that. And as long as your authentic self is real, honest, and trustworthy, then that's my legacy that I want to leave behind for them. But music is the biggest thing that I really think that I can leave behind for them. I don't care about the business and the money and all that stuff. I just want them to know that if they ever miss me or something, that they can put on my music and hear me there, which is crazy. If you're not a musician, that probably sounds wild, but yeah, I don't know. I would have to say that would probably be my one legacy that I'm leaving behind that nobody could ever take away from them.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're always building something. You always got your hand in something. What's next for Nick?
So we did have a supervising broker here for Kansas. So I was broker in Missouri. I just passed and sent all my applications out for Kansas. So I've got Missouri broker, Kansas broker. Florida is allowing me to skip the 2 years of salesperson and go directly to broker since I have the credentials to do so. So we're going to open up another brokerage down in Florida by the ocean. And then
And then
I have 4 recipes for RTDs, which are ready to drink cocktails. They come in a can about this big, and they are real sugar, no preservatives, no additives, real alcohol in them, not like the malt alcohol that you taste in some of the other drinks. But we've got 4 recipes in with a company called Flavor Man, and they're coming out with shelf life stability programs for the RTDs to be preserved on the shelf for a year or two. So we have a drink line coming out for ready to drink cocktails because they're great on the beach. And then I would actually like to open a restaurant too.
I mean, why not? From musician to brokerage to cocktails to restaurant, like it's all
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I really got into cooking a decade ago and I studied the science behind it and, why proteins cook certain ways. And I just found out that the most simple things in life are the best. Like, you know, dough, cheese, and sauce. As long as your dough is good, your sauce is good, and you have a good quality cheese, it's going to be the best cheese pizza you've ever had in your life, right? Or maybe just a steak. Like my father-in-law cracks me up. He'd get the Kikkoman teriyaki liquid marinade, and he'd just put his steaks in a bag and just seal it for the longer you leave it in there, the better it is, right? Well, I got some really good cuts from a butcher, and he's watching me prep my steak. You're not marinating it all? I said, no, all it needs is a good salt and pepper, butter, garlic, rosemary, and it's going to be the best steak ever. I don't like that much seasoning on my steak when I'm putting it on there, you know. Well, 40% of it falls off on the grill whenever you're cooking it, so you got to over
Yeah.
season it. This guy is a food connoisseur, and he's never had a better steak than when I just did salt, pepper, garlic, and butter. You know, so the simplest things in life are the best. So that's kind of the angle. But yeah, I do want to open a restaurant. We already have a concept. We already have a name. I've been kind of developing it. Chat GPT gives me slack every now and then for like, bro, you're all over the place.
You get roasted by your own GPT.
Yeah, I
Those are
do.
pretty
And
hilarious.
I saw your prompt and I put it into mine, and it was hilarious what it spit out. And it was like,
Too
okay,
funny.
I'm playing bass in this band. I'm playing guitar for this band. You want to start a restaurant, but your main focus is real estate. Like, what? You need to focus,
Yeah.
sir.
Last thing that we can cover here today, if you had one tip to leave with everyone who's listening on how to live a life of no regrets, what's the number one thing you can leave us with?
Ooh, that's a really good question, Matt. You're putting on some really good questions for me today, dude. Like, find your true authentic self. Make yourself happy alone. Follow your dreams and your passions, and be your true authentic self while doing so. Because if you're not happy by yourself, you can't make anybody else happy. My coach always says you got to put your mask on yourself first when you're on the airplane before you put your mask on the kid, right? Oxygen
Yeah.
mask.
Yeah.
So I take that to heart, of making sure my mind, body, spirit is clean before I bring it or do anything into my ecosystem, if that makes sense.
Right on.
Yeah, and I think that's what I would have to say is find your true authentic self so you can be that for everybody, because the world needs more of you and your authentic self.
If anyone resonated with this conversation, how could they connect with the Nick Trotter? What's the best way for somebody to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, you can email me at nic@firststclassre.com. You can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Nick No K T Sells KC, or you can just look up my name, NIC Trotter, Trotter on Google. I will pop up everywhere, probably with facial piercings and my band photos. And then you'll scroll down and see all my real estate stuff, and you'll scroll down and see the brokerage stuff. And yeah, you'll be able to find me anywhere.
Right on, man. Listen, I so appreciate you, dude. I love watching everything that you're doing, all the things you're building. And I'm just so glad you had an opportunity to come here and share your story.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Matt. Love knowing you, love our friendship, respect you, and continued success with your book and all of your podcasts and your journeys, man. Love watching you as well, buddy.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, you know the drill. If this episode resonated with you and you know somebody that could get something out of this, share the shit out of it. And then if you're looking for more tips on how to live a life of no regret, you can always find everything you need at noregretsblueprint.com. Take care, y'all. We'll see you at the next episode.